I'm really excited because we took a little break from our podcast and now we are back.
We are back. And I love what we're coming back with because today we're coming back with hope.
Mm.
That's the topic. Hope, spark of light, that thing that makes us all like, ooh, yay, we got this. That's what we want
I-
to talk.
I'm so excited about this topic. And recently, I really got the experience of what it's like to live without hope. And it was hard. I've never felt like that before. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know like who to reach out to. Like not having hope. Oof. Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough, that darkness that can come on a personal level and a community-wide level is just so heavy. Like, I think of heaviness when I think of loss of hope, like that darkness that just like can't breathe. Um, and I was wondering if you were gonna wanna talk about your personal experience, and here we are.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right in. Last week or 2 weeks ago,
two
I
weeks
got a call from Sarah, and I heard her voice, and I was like, "What is wrong?"
And I didn't even have the words. I and here, let's just be transparent. What did I feel hopeless about? It was the entire world. There was no part of my life that I could see hope in. And I know that sounds super defeatist now because I have hope again, but that was so real. I didn't know what to do and I didn't even know how to start the conversation. And I'm so grateful that you did because basically I was just crying. I would just cry like multiple times every day. We'd be like talking on the phone and I would just start crying again because I would remember how hopeless and horrible the world was.
And it was a stark contrast because as someone that, for myself, struggles with depression and anxiety, like, I can get in these tunnels and have, like, my lifetime, and while you have struggled with your own mental health issues at different times, like, you have always had this air of lightness. Like, it's all gonna be okay. Like, there's always an edge of optimism that's not the toxic positivity optimism, but like, "Oh, no, we're gonna be okay." Like, it's just always there. It's a part of your innate personality that I've known since we were in our early 20s, and to hear, like, this wobble in your voice and say I'm hopeless, I was like, "Okay, I'm getting in the car." Like, I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm gonna look at my calendar and I am getting in the car to come get you.
And you did. And it was so helpful. And not only did you, but so did Laura. And like the that for me, there's multiple things that brought back my hope, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I think that was what was so surprising for me, Sarah, is exactly what you said. I'm a problem solver. I look at the world no matter how bad it is, and I find solutions. I find solutions that we can implement to like make the world better, even if it's just a small part. And a couple weeks ago, I was looking at the problems and I couldn't find a solution. And I
Mhm.
didn't know what to do. There was no solution that I could see. And that was what really brought me into that state of hopelessness.
What did that feel like? Physically and mentally? Like, what happened for you?
You know, physically, I felt aches in my body. I felt exhausted. But mentally, I couldn't really feel anything. You know, like
Mhm.
I felt overwhelmed. I felt tight. I felt I felt nothing. Like that's the truth. And when I did feel anything, I felt despair. Like I just felt pain in my heart and I felt like anytime I did feel anything, I felt like the world was going to end. And like I've truly never felt that before. So, yeah.
It's interesting to me because when you describe it, to me, it feels like a mixture of how I experience both anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
Like, for depression, I always joke, and please, audience, no, I'm joking because I take my mental health very seriously. But I always say I'd rather depression than anxiety because at least depression, I sleep. Whereas anxiety, like I want to pull off my skin. And to me, when I have the combination that can bring that hopelessness, it's this despair that's like so deep that I can like, all I want to do is hide in my covers and sleep. Like I just want to check out from the world. And at the same time, I want to like scream and rip off my like I can't describe it like more than wanting to kind of like pull off my skin, like this like itchiness of like I need to do something, like I can't do anything, like this desperation. And with the two combined, it's really challenging. Um challenging. And even just talking about it, like my body's gotten like really tense and like braced. It's that feeling of brace for like what's gonna happen. Because if there's no hope, what's gonna happen? Like hope is what I thrive on. Like light is what I thrive on. Like that optimism that like no matter what, like there's good on the other side is what gets me through. So when that's gone, it just feels like ugh.
Yeah, and, like, even my, like, because I do have mental health struggles as well, and the things that normally bring me peace, like being out in my garden, um, going for a walk, seeing my spaghetti sisters for, like, a Friday night dinner, like, those things I just kept not having the energy and capability to do, and, like, I just my garden is right there, I can see it when I'm working, and, like, I wasn't even able to, like, get myself out there, and, like yeah.
For me, that feels really scary. Does that feel scary to you or does it feel sad or like a little of all of it?
When I was in it, I felt frustrated. I felt
Mm,
really frustrated because I felt frustrated that I didn't have the capabilities to do some things that I felt like might bring me out of hopelessness. But the
mhm,
thing is when I was in that state and why I wasn't doing those things was because I felt like nothing could restore my hope. I was like I had the one voice on my shoulder being like, "Girl, go out into your garden, connect with your friends, blah blah blah, eat some food." And the other voice would be like, "But what's the point? What's the point? If you go out in your garden, nothing's gonna change. What's the point?" And like that was really where I was. And I was so proud of myself for like when you guys offered to come and just saying yes, because that felt like a big deal. I was like, and even when I said yes, I was like, say yes, you need to. But I was like, it's not gonna change anything. Nothing's gonna change by them coming. Like you're still gonna be, and you're just gonna drag them down. I was like, but I said yes, and I was so grateful for it.
For the record, I was coming with you said yes or no. Like, I don't know what's happening or why it's happening, but I'm going to New York. That's just what's happening. Like, I've been like, "Well, what's happening with Sarah?" I don't know. I'm just going to New York. I'm going to New York. And I think, like, I think this is such an important conversation because I believe that everyone experiences this feeling at some point in their life. Like, some experience it often, some experience it very rarely, but I feel like it's a universal feeling that can happen. And it lends ears to why community is so important. Like why having the people that know you so well is so important. And going with like, how do we build that? Because, a friendship of over 20 years, like I can hear in your voice. But like what happens when that's not nearby or accessible? And that's what I really look at like, ooh, ooh, we all have a hand in this, whether it's like a person down the street or your bestie, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's such a great reminder that you just said is like everybody at some point will likely feel hopelessness,
Mhm.
will likely feel sadder than they ever thought possible, number than they ever thought possible. Like,
And it's a reality we need to be talking more about, right? Like, because especially those of us who are eternally optimistic, like, I was on a call this week and I was like, I'm a hopeless romantic. Love will be there. Love will be there. It's coming. And so when so many people see that as the outside version of ourselves, I like the outside version to be real too, of like, oh yeah, sometimes it gets really dark over here.
What do you do when you're in, because you have so many more tools, for better or for worse. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, I joked with my therapist this week. I was like, it turns out 40 years of therapy gives you like a lot of tools and skills. Like I get to see them in real time now, which is pretty amazing. It brings me back. My first ever dark depression was medication induced, actually, by a migraine medication. And I think I would have struggled with depression at some point anyway, given trauma. But I can see this so clearly. I was like in sixth grade and I was playing some Madonna song over and over. I wish I could remember what it was on the top of my head. I'll have to find it and write it at the bottom on a CD player. Might have even been a tape. It might have been a
Yeah,
tape.
6th grade? Could be.
It was like the changeover of CDs and tapes. And just feeling like, what's the point? And my depression has always gotten me to places of what's the point? Um, and feelings like I just want this all to end, but never a feeling. I've never had ideation to unalive myself, which I'm really, really grateful for. I'm really grateful for because I think that combination that can come in, I just like have so much respect for the people that fight through that. Um, for me, hope has always looked like, well, it's looked different over the years. So that was the first time I felt it. Now, sometimes I feel like it's automatic response. Like this is what's happening, so this is what I need to do whether I want to or have the energy to. Like I often give myself a time period to feel feelings
Mhm.
and then I have to do the actionable steps no matter what. Like just it is what has to be done. I have to go outside and breathe fresh air. I have to let my circle around me, my closest internal like little circle know what's happening immediately. um, I call I call in my whole support team. I call in my therapist, my sponsorship family, my friends, my family, and let them know, and then do the things. And I think that's also why hearing your voice, I think that bringing the people in is the most important step to get you going because they're the people that are like, oh no, we're going to go eat right now, or we're going to go outside right now. Like, or you can just cry and I'm just going to sit here. But it's that witness of what's happening because it's so isolating. And it feels, or at least to me, I want to really like make clear my feelings because I know it happens differently for everyone. I feel so disconnected from the world. Hopelessness to me is disconnection. It's disconnection to good.
Mhm.
Um, it's disconnection to actionable. It's disconnection to like something joyful is going to happen. And so the people that are closest to me that can like mirror back, well, actually, you have a lot of connection. Like, actually, you've had a lot of joy, and we're just going to sit here while you don't. And what do you need? Yeah, I wouldn't have known that answer. I would say connection is the number one thing to get me out and the hardest thing to do. The hardest thing to do when in that state is to connect with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I'm so lucky that I had to talk to you, right? I mean, we work together, so it wasn't an option to not, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
It's that built-in daily connection. Like, we
Yeah.
connect on a daily basis, right? So, I think in starting to think of, like, building a toolkit for anyone that's listening, 'cause, like, my brain goes to solution too, right? If you're like, "Well, I don't have that," like, how do you start building that? Like, how do you start getting those relationships where that person will hear the voice? Like, or what happens there? Or the scariest thing ever of saying, like, "Something's not right, and I just need to tell you." I usually don't ask for help. I usually say, like, "I just need you to know, like, what's going on." That's my way of saying, like, I might need help, and as long as I know you're, like, right there, then I can reach it, and it's almost like knowing that help's there is enough for me to next step.
Mm.
What sparked your hope?
Well, there is the inward and the outward. So
Mhm.
the inward was the connection. Like the inward was y'all, if we put up the video of this, you're just gonna see I'm like crying this whole episode. So enjoy. Uh, that's normal for any episode with us as regular listeners now. But I think the biggest thing that really got me through was the connection, was seeing my friends drop everything and driving and being there for me and holding space, and like that I think was the most healing thing. But then the outward world shifted, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like for me, um, that I think was the biggest thing because frankly, if you and Laura had come but nothing had changed, my hope probably would have been much longer to rekindle. I would have felt support. I hopefully would have gotten out of that deep, deep hopelessness. But like my hope would have been a lot more fractured than it is now and a lot harder to sustain. But frankly, the biggest thing that rekindled my hope was Harris getting in the race, was Biden taking a step back and seeing like maybe Project 2025 won't be a reality. That coupled with my community and seeing how strong my community was made me realize that my community is strong, we are strong, but my community is not unique. The people that make it up, like, really are people that can change the world, and now we have an opportunity to. And now I feel I mean, things won't be perfect if Harris is president, of course not, it won't be, right? Because we have to change so much, but now I see hope, and now I see a way forward, and I truly didn't before.
And I think just like we need to address our internal or like I guess it's not necessarily internal, but our little life hopelessness versus like world hopelessness. Like and the reality of I think a couple weeks ago is when you were crying. I was like, yeah, 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 it's scary. It's scary. It's scary. I don't know how I'm coping some days, or I'm not coping some days. Like, so much is happening worldwide that feels hopeless, that just feels like what in the humanity is going on. Um, and to be bombarded daily with what in the humanity is going on by visual, audio, all of this with our senses in a way that has never been exposed before is just a lot for the human experience. It's a lot for the human experience. And that's coming from an extremely privileged place, like about as privileged as you can get. And it's a lot. And so I think the community level of that, we also saw like a deep breath happen, like at least in our little spheres a couple weeks ago of like, okay, we're not alone in this. Like there are other people, there are other warriors, there are other like truth seekers, there are other all of these people that have a layer of eternal optimism for humanity.
Yeah, that is it, and, after first of all, like, Harris running for president was what restored my hope, but I wanna give Biden his dues. Biden stepping down gave me hope, right? An old, established white dude taking a step away from power for the betterment of the country did so much to restore my hope. And then, in addition to that, seeing the hope scrolling, like that weekend of like once Biden made the announcement, Harris stepped up and just all of the beautiful content that was uplifting again, that was inspiring again, that was not talking about hate, but talking about that connection and that love. Like, I cannot tell you the last time that scrolling through social media was healthy for me, but these last couple of weeks it has been between Harris and then like all of the amazing, powerful women and all of the athletes at the Olympics, like seeing their camaraderie across country lines and all of that. These past couple of weeks have done so much to restore my hope.
And so much realness in mental health. Like, I think like, that's like, oh, we're going to address the actual reality that's happening and we're going to sprinkle joy on top. Like that to me is what I think lifts me up is like there's a picture of Harrison Wells just beaming. And I was like, it's joy. Like to me, that's what hope is. Hope equals joy. Like it's that no matter what, life is going to be hard. There's going to be trauma. There's going to be people that are unkind and cruel. Let's not just say unkind, cruel and have issues. And I'm still going to show up with joy. Like that's to me the ultimate fighting tool is feel the feelings, face reality, show up with joy, and then take action to bring that joy to others.
Yeah. Yes. The take action part is so important.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, like going back, now I feel like I can take action. Now I'm inspired again, right? It's like now I have energy. I'm like I feel so strong now. And like it's just amazing what a couple of weeks can do.
Yeah. And I really think that's the collective,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
collective of hope makers, peacemakers, joy makers that are like, no, this is going to be hard, but we're not letting hate come over us. We're not letting fear win. We're not letting bullies come in and like take over. Um, and that can be so true internally when you're in that moment of like, hey, you know what? Negative voice who feels like there's nothing and like it's not worth it. Like, let's just quiet down a little. I'm just gonna give you, we're gonna sprinkle a little love and joy and say, like, heard and no, like not today. Today I'm gonna get up. But in that hopeless state, it's so hard.
So hard. It's so hard. Yeah. The collective really got me out of it though, like community and the community I know, but then community I don't know, both like helped me to get out of it. So maybe that's a place to start if you're looking for community and don't have it yet in your real life, right? How are there some content creators that you want to follow that bring you joy when you see them? Like start there. I know, right? So we always look down on social media, but it is a tool that we can use if we use it selectively.
I think it goes back to what we always say is like the irony of self-love is that it happens in community. Like, all of the self-love first and stuff is happens in community. It is through community that we learn to love ourselves. It is in community that we are able to like step into the hope.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like we talk about this a lot. It's okay if you're doing action at first, not for you, right?
Mhm.
If you need to like externalize it and do it for someone else or do it for your future or whatever, that's okay. That doing it for yourself will come when you're on the path.
And I also think like thinking of community past just people too. Like I know people whose dogs have saved their lives. Like
Yes.
that like in active addiction, like taking a dog for a walk or feeding it was what like kept them alive, like kept that hope. And so I think like just finding those small ways too, which isn't small, like your family, your furry friend and family member, but like it's not always human connection. So I just want to say that out loud too. I feel like that's really important to voice.
Thank you for voicing that because Smokey the cat was instrumental in bringing back my hope. Yeah, girlfriend, even though it was like 90 degrees, would be like on my stomach cuddling and just purring and like, yeah, just giving so much love. And if you're in a spot where you can't have an animal companion, volunteer. Volunteer at an animal shelter. And like, I know, right? Earlier I said I couldn't even go out into the garden. So I want to say props to you if you heard this and you're like, yes, I'm hopeless, but I'm gonna go to the animal shelter. Okay, I understand that I wouldn't have been able to do that, okay?
I was gonna bring it down to a notch to just go visit the animal shelter and pet a dog or a cat. Like,
That's better.
if you can volunteer, you're like gold stars on your way to like hope. If all you can do is stop a neighbor walking by with a dog to say hi to the dog, that works too.
Maybe start there.
My eternally optimistic Sarah is back. She is back. Well, and laughing, that's such an important reminder, is we don't actually go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, if you're listening to this and feeling hopeless, like, you're in there. Your spark is still there, you just can't see it. And I think that is, these points of reminders to like, "Oh, this isn't forever. This is today." Like, this isn't forever. This is for the next hour. This isn't forever, like, however small you need to break it down, because that would be the other thing that I've done to, like, help my brain. It's like, "You know what? For the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna be okay. The next 10 minutes, I'm gonna shelve this thought and just go take a shower."
Mm.
Like, or if I make some toast, it's not gonna change anything, but I am gonna be fed, and that will make me feel better about the world, maybe, or I'll just go back to sleep. Like, just little tricks.
Okay, I love that because that's something I couldn't do. Like, when I was in that state, I actually felt like change wasn't possible. I was like, "I don't see how things can change," and I wasn't looking small enough.
Mhm.
Like, I was making change. I was, and that breaking it down into, like, 10-minute increments, man, Sarah, that is a tool. That's a really
Yeah.
good tool. Wow.
Way less than 1 day at a time. Like,
Yeah.
there have been times in my life I've gone 5 minutes at a time. Like, for 5 minutes, I don't have to pick up this unhealthy coping mechanism, whatever it may be. Like, for 5 minutes, I can wait 5 minutes. If in 5 minutes I, like, can't stop thinking about it, I'll readdress it. And then in 5 minutes being like, "Let's try 5 more. Maybe you could do 10. What could you do instead? What could you do instead for 10 minutes?" And then you can go back to bed. Then you can space out to Netflix. Then you can do whatever, but for 10 minutes, what can you do for yourself?
Oh my gosh, there's so many connections here. Cause that's how I trick my ADHD brain. Is I
Yes.
go to the kitchen and do 2 dishes.
Mhm.
It's
And then
genius.
your hands are wet, so you do them.
Do 'em all.
Mhm. So you shower and then you're like, "Well, I guess I'll put on real clean clothes instead of my pajamas because now I'm clean." Or
Yeah.
I'll at least put on clean pajamas.
Yes.
It's cozy. And then it just brings you like a little down the road. And that is ultimately how self-love is done too. Like, it's not this like magical moment where reindeer what the hell was that? Get myself to a meeting today. Rainbows and butterflies and glitter come out. It's like, oh, I set a boundary at work, or oh, I took a shower when I didn't feel like it, or like, oh, I went to therapy to address this really hard thing. That's the stuff that builds self love.
So, hey, we hope you're not feeling hopeless, but,
No.
we also hope that if you are, you keep this episode just kind of, like, around to listen to and to remember that it won't be forever and that, there are some ways to just bring a little bit of hope into your life, 5 minutes at a time.
Minutes at a time. And if you feel like you have no one to, connect to us.
Yeah, just DM us. Y'all, we don't have that many followers. We will respond, okay? Like, if you don't feel like you have community, reach out, okay?
We
Um,
welcome you to ours.
we are very happy to be that. And hopefully now you are feeling some hope. If you're not, we'll put in some of our favorite Instagram followers in the comments, and you can just kind of scroll, see what they're doing, and maybe get hopeful from them.
Oh, I love that. That feels like a fun challenge for us. Like, go
It
find our
does.
most hopeful people.
I have a couple people. I have a couple people in mind.
We will in mine too.
Yeah.
Amazing. Until next time.
See you soon.